Welcome to our first video in our short course on glass painting. This one is going to be all about outlining. Now there's several different ways of doing your outlining, and I'm just going to mention a couple briefly. One is adhesive lead, which is this is a 6mm, comes in different widths and different colours. It's got a backing on, peel it off, it's adhesive, you stick it on your glass or whatever. Hopefully here's an example. I will be covering that in more depth in a later video because that's quite specialised. And another way is to use these peelies. You can buy them, there are some larger ones available now, and again we'll look at this more in depth because it's a bit more special in a later video. What we're going to concentrate on in this video is liquid outliner or liquid lead, Cern Relief, whatever you want to call it. It comes in bottles and tubes, different size bottles, different brands. Oh, I've got a couple more over here, hold on. There we go. I'll tell you why I'm struggling. I tend to keep my bottles in upside down in cups like that. It just means the outliner stays to the bottom of the bottle where I need it, or to that end of the bottle where I need it. The outliners actually come in two different types. Now, ignoring the colour difference here, the black and the gold are two different types of outliner. They're both available in different colours. But if we get a craft knife to these, hopefully this will work. I didn't do these too long ago. Now this is a soft outliner, and I can show you that by the fact it will just peel off the glass. Not only will it peel off the glass, you should be able to put it back on the glass again. It'll stick down. So this is a soft peelable outliner. Mostly comes in the bottles, not exclusively, but most bottle outliner is soft like that. Can't get rid of it. There we go. Whereas this, which comes in a tube, is a hard outliner. It's brittle, it won't peel. But like that, it does. It is quite solid on the glass. Now I mostly use the soft outliner. I prefer it, I find it easier to work with, it comes in larger bottles which is cheaper, and it retains its shape. Again, I'll try and zoom in so you can see, I hope you can see, the harder outliner tends to go slightly flatter, spread a little bit and go flatter. The soft outliner tends to retain its shape. Now a lot of people think the soft outliner isn't very good because you can't do much with it. I use it for just about everything, and it is fully washable. Again, hopefully magic of video, you can see here this has been washed, it's come to no harm at all, and it has been used, it has been made using the soft outliner. I wouldn't soak it, but there's absolutely no reason why it can't be washed down. It's the glass paint which seals it onto the glass. Therefore, I would use the hard outliner when I'm going to outline on its own. Say I'm going to do some writing on a glass or something, or I'm going to overpipe, e.g. outline on top of paint. So anywhere where the paint isn't going to seal the outliner on, I would use the hard. But generally in my everyday work, I use the softer outliner. Now here's a little example I showed you. Mostly you'll want to do your work when it's all still wet. Now again, I don't think you'll be able to see because this is actually quite fine, but this one, there's a distinct lump here because I let that line dry first before I added that line. It's not a bad effect, but if you want it all to blend in, do it while it's wet. Again, you can see on these they've got slight lumps on the corners because they were done at different times. On this one it all sort of melts into one with no lumps on the corners, no bumps, because it was all wet when it was done. Finally, before I actually do a little demonstration, I want to say something about mistakes. Don't try and wipe your outliner off when it is wet. If I can get a little bit onto the glass there. You try wiping it off whilst it's wet, you just make a mess. Wait, let it dry, finish your whole piece, and then go back and cut out any mistakes. So if that was a mistake there, I will just get my craft knife, and I have done this quite successfully on acetate as well. Now you see that's a harder outliner, but there's the mistake cut off, and it's nice and clean. Get rid of a few bits there, haven't made a mess. And if I need to, I can go back now and touch that up again. It's worth getting your outlining right. I've heard some horrendous things said about outlining. Don't worry if it's too rough, it gives it a homemade look. I don't agree with that. Get the outlining right. If your outlining is right, your painting will just follow on naturally. If your outlining is wrong, bad, poor, whatever, it won't matter how well you paint, it's still going to look bad. So get your outlining right, even if it takes you a day or two. If you're working on glass, you can always put it under a warm lamp or hairdryer or something, and it will dry out quite quickly. Otherwise, I tend to give it a good day between outlining and painting. So I've said there are different outliners available in bottles and tubes, etc. Now some of the bottles, this one definitely, this one, oh this is a lovely little one here, hold on, there we go, got a really nice nib on that. Some of the bottles you can use it straight from the bottle. I tend not to do that because I buy very large bottles, but it is quite possible. So we're going to have a look at a practice sheet. So here's my practice sheet, and what I've done is stuck a bit of acetate just over the top. There's nothing I can show you. It's quite a cheap way of practicing. I'm going to start off by using a bottle. It's not my favourite way of outlining. I don't like the tubes. Bottles aren't bad, I do use them for quick work. Technique is always the same, so starting around the middle, you touch, you lift. This is moving quite hard to down to finish. Touch, lift, a bit of a thin bit there, and down to finish. Let's see if I can fill that. Whoops, there's one of those mistakes we'll have to cut out. So if we do a square, touch, lift, just going to change direction and then move it round. Move round your work as much as you can, and you'll notice I'm always pulling away from the bottle. I'm never trying to push into the outliner, I'm always pulling. Try pushing, you make an awful mistake. I'm okay with that, it's not the best outlining in the world. Bottles are okay to outline from. My favourite method of outlining, however, is to use a piping bag. Now I do have a separate video on the YouTube channel or on the site which shows you how to make a piping bag and how to use a piping bag, so I'm not going to repeat it. I'll try and give the link to the video. Now this is just a bit of parchment or greaseproof paper, depending on which country you live in. And all I'm doing is making a small closed piping bag. Now I can use outliner from one of my big bottles. Just put a bit in the bottom of that. Doesn't matter if I put too much in, because when I've finished, any remaining will come back into the bottle again. Now I like using a piping bag for several reasons. One is I can buy outliner in bigger bottles and therefore cheaper. Another one is the amount of control it gives you. It's so much easier to squeeze a piping bag than it is a bottle. Unlike a tube, when you stop squeezing it stops coming out. And the last one, I can cut the end to whatever thickness of line I want. Now it's always best to start off with less, test it, and then if you want, cut off a little bit more. What you're not going to be able to do is stick any back on again. So this is my favourite way of piping. It's not a very thick line. You try and keep the lines in proportion to the size of the work you're doing. So if you're doing a small piece of work, you'll want very small lines. If you're doing a larger piece of work, a window or a door or something, you'll want nice thick lines. I'm going to finish this one off with this size and just show you I can cut a little bit more off. Have a slightly thicker line. Always lifting and let it lay down by itself. Do that again and have an even thicker line. I'll push this too far. I'm not going to make you sit and watch me outline every single thing on the sheet, but practice is great. Outlining is the thing most people have difficulty with, and it's worth putting a bit of time into practicing it. Now when you've finished, again you don't have to do every bit on here, when you've finished do keep this sheet. I'll show you another one in a second. In fact I'll show you another one now. Keep the sheet, don't throw it away, because we are going to use it. Now here is another practice sheet. Both these sheets are available for download for free off our website. If you're watching this video on the website, the link should be just below us somewhere. If you're watching it on YouTube, I'll try and put the link in the description. So and then lay down itself, starting in the middle once again. And again, when you finish this sheet, keep it, don't throw it away. We're going to use these when we take our first look at painting, which will be in the next video. So I'm going to leave you to practice. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're watching on YouTube, and you'll get to know when further videos come out. Going to try and do these lessons every 2 weeks at a minimum. Might be more often than that, but every 2 weeks there should be at least one new video out. And I will also put the link to making your own piping bag at the end of this video, or down below in the description, etc. I hope you enjoy your practice. I know practicing stuff like this can be a tad boring, but honestly, it's well worth putting in the practice, because it will set you up for so much, and the outlining is so important. Get your outlining right and your piece will be right. Okay, I shall leave it there. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. Please ask any questions you have on our website, on our YouTube channel, or on our Facebook page. I keep an eye on all of them, and will do my best to answer any questions you've got. We will be looking at more specific outlining techniques in the future, but this is the basics of outlining, and if you can get it right, there's no end to what you can produce with your glass painting. Happy crafting, and I will speak to you soon.